Good evening and welcome to another Taco Society Presents taping. I'm here with Leigh, Phil Perron, and this is episode 17. We've been doing this for quite a while now.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Indeed.
Yeah. We're going to start like we usually do with news, and I know Phil's got some great news to share with the audience.
Oh yes, yeah. Since the last time we recorded, a new addition, a new horror fan has joined my family.
A new horror fan. That's
right.
great.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So,
Is it a dog?
no, it's
No?
a little girl.
A girl dog.
No, little,
No, a baby.
Yes.
Oh,
a baby,
good,
yes,
great, congratulations.
Yes. So, Vivian Helen Perron, born December 3rd.
Oh,
So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Good for you.
She's so cute.
in Nashua, New Hampshire.
National. Now this is your second child,
That's right. Yeah.
and how old's your first?
Just turned 2.
Just turned 2.
Yeah.
Now, are you reading her nightmares for scary stories for bedtime, or?
Well, actually, not often, but a couple of times I've read the Norse mythology stuff. I got
good.
one of the children's books with about the Norse mythology, and also the C is for Cthulhu, which was at that Andover book.
I saw
fair
that,
we
yeah.
went. I picked that up, and
Yeah.
she enjoys that tremendously.
That's great. Yeah.
My father-in-law, though, has a hard time pronouncing a lot of the names in that book. Yeah, like Sloggoth and so forth.
So do I.
Yeah, I do too, actually. Yeah. So.
Well, the
Well, you
world
got-
can't have too many horror fans.
No,
so-
you can't. That's right. So have a
True,
couple
true.
more. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, add a few more.
We need
exactly.
somebody to buy our books and to keep us
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
You
sure.
can't start them too early.
No, never. Never. So.
And welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been gone for a couple episodes. You've had some
Yep.
problems, but
Yep.
we were sorry to hear about your uncle.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it was. Yeah.
That was a huge loss, and he was pretty sick, so it was tough to see.
Yeah. Well, we're obviously very sorry it happened,
Thank
but we're
you.
very glad you're back with us.
Thank you.
What do you got for news?
Let's see. I've got an offer from a production company on optioning Baby's Breath, actually, for a feature film, which is pretty exciting. Yeah,
that's great.
And it's I was contacted by via email, and within 48 hours, we had been back and forth, and I actually have an agent at ICM who is negotiating with her now, and they've made an offer. The VP,
film company,
yeah,
yep.
the VP of development and production. And I don't want to say who it is, but it is a company that has made several of my favorite movies. So
Good.
I'm really excited and hopeful, and we'll see what happens. But as I always say, it's thanks to Phil, because he, published that story initially, and he's really the one I wrote it for. So.
Is he going to get a cut of the profits? Or?
Probably not. No, I don't think so. But I'll buy him popcorn at the premiere.
Yeah, exactly. As long as I'm at the premiere,
Yeah,
that'll
that'd be
satisfied.
cool.
Yeah.
Now you've got to have an actress in mind, even though you got no say in that. But you've got to have somebody you're thinking. of.
My husband and I have, of course, that's the first thing we did the night that I got the email. We popped a bottle of champagne and sat and thought about things like that. And it's very hard to do because Diane in the story is based on a real character, and I don't want to say who that is, but it's hard for us because the story takes such a dark turn in order to seek vindication for her, and isn't really what Diane was like in real life. And she lived quite a long time ago. She actually passed away 20-something years ago. So if we were to imagine, an actress for her, it's very hard to do. So he had some in mind, but they were, sort of more classic actresses. And for me, I had a few, but he was like, no. So
It's fun. It's fun
it
to
is.
do,
It's
yes.
very fun, and what I love is that this production company, all of their movies, one thing that is consistent is that they cast extraordinary talents.
yeah.
And
Right.
it's not just big names. It's people that I've seen in foreign films that I love, and just smart casting. So I'm really excited about it.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I hope it works out, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But just for them to have been the first people to reach out to me about it, and for anyone to reach out at all was.
Who'd have thought, huh? You'd write a story someday, you're sitting there, and then,
yeah.
a year later, somebody's making an offer
Yeah,
for it.
I mean, it started off as a 100-word story that I published for free on Hell Notes. It was just a 100-word drabble.
And now
So-
it could be a scrambly. You don't know? We wish you, both of us obviously wish you a
Thank
lot of
you.
luck.
Thank
That's great.
you.
That's great.
And how about your news?
Yeah, I talked about this last show about submitting a book and having my fingers crossed that that book would be accepted, and it was.
Yay!
So I'm going to have a new book out early 2016. I'm not quite sure what early means, but there's 5 books ahead of me, so they're working on those. But it's with Crossroad Press.
Congratulations.
And it's really, it's very exciting for me. I've had a lot of short stories published over the years, but this is my first full book, and it's supposed to be available in e-form, which is the first way it'll come out, ebook.
And then paperback?
Then paperback, and it may go into hardcover. We have to wait and see. But they're also talking about
Wow.
audiobooks. So
Oh.
it'll all be covered, and it'll be great. And this press has covered some of the biggest names in horror. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a privilege to be with Crossroad Press.
How many stories?
Well, it starts off with a novella, and the novella takes quite a chunk of.
Is Stardust the novella, or
no,
is that just
no.
a story?
The novella is the Strange Saga of Maddie
Oh,
Dyer.
right,
Yes.
right, yep.
And then there's, I believe, 7 stories added on to that,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't connected to the novella. They're different stories that I've had over the years, some published, some not published.
Mm-hmm.
But Stardust has not been published. And there's a funny story, well, not a funny story, but there's a story behind that. I read it at Anthicon, and I blame
The
you.
great James Moore.
Yes, we were up till 4 in the morning one night. She had me up till 4 in the morning. We were drinking. We
I'm
were
a
talking.
night owl.
Oh, well, that's not the worst part. Finally, at 4, we say, "Okay, I can't take this anymore, Sid. I gotta go to bed." 2 hours later, the phone rings, and it's Sydney, and she says, "You want to go to breakfast?"
Well, we
What?
were already going to breakfast.
At 8. I would have had
right.
4 hours sleep. So she says, "You want to go?" I said, "Oh my God, are you serious?" She goes, "Yeah." So I said, "Okay, we'll go to breakfast." So I grabbed my butt out of bed and I go down to breakfast, and I was tired and I was dying through the
As
day.
you can see, I don't sleep much.
Oh, well, you look fine, believe me. So we get to the room where I'm going to read Stardust. It's a story I'd never had published before. And there was something in the room that also affected me. And while I'm reading, I started to choke up. I couldn't breathe. And Christopher Golden saw me, and he saved my life. He ran and got me a glass of water. Gave me the water, and I drank it, and I finished the story. But when the story was done, Jim Moore came up to me and said, "Where's that published?" And I said, "Nowhere, it's a new story." And he says, "You got to get that published. I want to read that somewhere." And I knew I wanted to save it for the book if it ever came out. And
The collection.
yeah, and when I told him it was out there, he said, "Great." And Bracken McLeod was also a big factor in that because he'd read an earlier version and made some suggestions for me to improve it, and I did. So between Bracken and Jim, I had a lot of faith in it, and it made the cut. So
Excellent,
yeah,
excellent.
very happy.
You gonna have an introduction, or?
John McElveen, who's been on the show.
Yeah, of
and
course.
He's also a author with Crossroad Press.
Oh, nice.
So that worked out very well.
Is Hannaware from
Hannaware
there? Oh,
and
okay.
Inflictions, yeah.
Wow.
And he's got a new one coming out called Going South, which will be published sometime later in the year.
Wow, good for
John is.
him.
John is,
With Crossroads.
yeah.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and Crossroad does Clive Barker, Chet Williamson. I mean, all the big names in horror are with Crossroads.
Good
So
for
it's
you,
yeah, I
Tony.
really,
That's
I'm
fantastic.
I'm really proud to be involved with them, and David Dodd, who's the editor and worked with me on this, and the owner David Wilson and his wife Trish. They both really enjoyed the collection. They called it very strong.
You have a title yet?
We're working on it, and I give it now, but it might change. So, and we're working on the title and the cover.
Cool.
So we'll see.
Do you have an artist for the cover already?
Well, David does covers
Oh, he
also.
does.
So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he's doing the cover for it. So we'll see what happens. We still got a couple months to
Nice.
go. But, yeah.
Congrats.
Well, thank you very
and
much.
congrats to you.
Oh, yes.
To all three of us. Yeah, it's
yeah.
been a good month.
Yeah.
And there's some other things going on that I can't talk about yet, and hopefully I can. And,
What do you mean?
Yeah.
You haven't even mentioned
I told
it.
you earlier.
We'll get him in the parking lot
you're
after
getting-
the
yeah,
show.
afterwards,
Alright.
which could be very exciting, and we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
And we all, and I said, no, we all. You've got something else going, but Phil and I are also working on a joint project that's due in May,
Right.
and we got our fingers crossed on that. So there's a lot going on, tons of stuff going on. And I know you got other things in the
Yeah.
other irons in the fire, and you don't want to announce that yet, and I don't blame you. But
Yeah.
we're all moving along, and we hope everyone else is too.
Yeah.
We're gonna. It's December out there. You'd never know it.
No.
God, the
No
Well, unless
snow.
you're in Colorado.
well, maybe Colorado. You'd never know it in this part of the country, in New England, in New Hampshire where we are. There's no snow on the ground. The average temperatures have been in the 40s and 50s. They've even reached 60. No one's complaining though. At least
No,
mostly none of us
no.
are complaining.
No, we're not.
But there's something about winter and horror. There's something about snow and horror that go together. Whether it's sitting in front of a cozy fire, wrapping yourself in a blanket, or sitting in a bed under, 10 comforters. There's something about reading horror in the winter that's just a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about our favorite winter/snow / holiday novels, and we're going to read a little bit from them. But first, I'm going to read you just a list of other horror novels that have to do with snow and winter, in case you want to look those up. The first one on the list is The Shining, and everybody knows The
Oh,
Shining, a great
God,
horror movie,
yeah.
movie dealing with snow
Incredible.
by Stephen King. Another one, Ghost Story. If you've read Ghost Story by
Yeah,
Peter
Peter
Straub,
Straub,
yeah, that's also deals with winter. Snowblind by Michael McBride. I want to say Snowbound, but I haven't read this one, but I think it's Snowblind by Michael McBride. The Terror by Dan Simons, which is a great story. A Winter's Haunting, also by Dan Simons, which is the sequel to Summer of Night.
That's right.
Which is a classic.
Yeah, Summer Night was great.
Summer Night's classic, and I like The Winter's Haunting.
I haven't read that one yet. I have the hardcover, but I haven't read it.
Simons or Simmons?
Simmons.
Simmons.
Oh,
yeah, he
oh.
kept-
Simmons. Did I say
yeah,
Simons?
Yeah, you said Simons. Yeah.
Excuse me with names.
I'm
I'm
not
absolutely
correcting
terrible.
you. I just wasn't sure.
Two M's. You were right.
Yeah, but this one has one.
Not
I
anymore.
honestly not correct. I just
mention
wasn't
that
sure.
you mentioned The Terror by Dan Simmons in the last episode.
Oh, I did, yes.
Yes.
And we talked about that. Great book. Snow by Ronald Malfoy. Great book. Talk about creatures in the snow. That was a lot of fun. Alone by Brian Keene. This one you might know. Mountains of Madness by H.P.
Oh,
Lovecraft.
yeah.
Big
All
snow.
right, so you ruined one of my trivia questions.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's destroyed.
I don't know if you probably haven't read these, but the 30 Days of Night series by
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Steve
Those
Niles
good.
and Jeff Marriott.
Yeah,
some-
graphic novels.
Yeah, well, they're also regular novels, fiction novels.
Oh, they turned them into fictional novels.
Well,
Because
I've read
originally it came out as graphic novels.
Oh, had it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how they started. Yeah.
I've read the novelization.
And they made a movie too.
Oh, I saw the
Yeah, yeah, the
movie.
movie was
Yeah,
excellent.
Josh Hartnett, I
Yeah,
think, was in it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And John Huston's son was in it too. I forget his name. Danny Huston.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I love Danny Houston.
Yeah, he's good.
He is incredible.
Yeah.
He really is. Okay.
Good looking guy?
Yeah.
Well, he's a good actor.
no,
he's just an average
yeah.
looking guy, but,
Oh,
but he's
okay.
a great actor.
He's
yeah.
he's incredible.
Hive by Tim Curran, another great claustrophobic snow movie. Winter Wake by Rick Hodala, which I absolutely loved. And I'm not going to screw this name up. Midnight Solitaire by Greg Giffune. I almost did screw it up. Great book again.
Yeah, I'm going to add one. It's a story. It's not a book, but Weldon Burge has a collection called Broken Stories of Damaged Psyches, and I absolutely loved his collection. It was really, really good. And White Hell, Wisconsin was a story
Excellent,
in it that was, yeah.
You forgot the most famous of all, A Christmas Story by Charles Dickens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So that's just a list in case you want to look some of those up. In addition to the three we're going to talk about today, or tonight rather. But let's let you start, Phil. And
Okay.
what do you got?
Okay, yeah. Well, since you or we all discussed offline that we were going to choose one novel or story that took place during something to do with snow or Christmas season or whatnot.
Or winter.
Yeah, or winter, right? And mine actually takes place in Alaska, north of the Arctic. So it's not necessarily a winter in the sense that it's winter, but it's always
It's
freezing
snow,
up there.
yeah.
So it's a very snowy story, and it's actually a novel called Terminal Freeze by Lincoln Child. This is my original copy. The first book I ever read by Lincoln Child. I just saw it at Borders, back when Borders still existed. See, Borders, yeah, right there. I still have the thing. And they actually, it just looked like a cool thing. I was into techno thrillers at the time, and I heard that this guy wrote a lot of techno thrillers, as well as horror. So I bought the book that day, and I read it, and it blew me away. And since then, I've read pretty much everything that he has written, whether it is by himself or with his famous co-author Douglas Preston, which they write together a lot. Most of their novels.
The Pendergrass series of books are
Absolutely.
some of my favorites. Absolutely.
Yes,
Great
yes,
stuff.
Exactly. And it was interesting to find out that Lincoln Child, his first novel was co-written with Douglas Preston, was The Relic, which has been made into a motion picture, and is actually the first appearance of Pendergrass, as a matter of fact, which is an FBI agent that's in many of their books. But that was in 1995. This is his first novel that he actually wrote alone, and that was, second, I'm sorry. His first was in 2007, this was in 2009. So 12 years later, he actually wrote his first novel without Douglas Preston, which was...
What's it about?
This book here, this here is about an expedition to north of the Arctic in Alaska, where numerous scientists go to basically do experiments and things about the weather to see about global warming, very important today. And this is 2009, and we're talking about global warming as well. And when they're up there doing their experiments, and they're being funded by a television station, they discover an animal frozen in the ice, something that looks like a saber-toothed tiger or something. And what happens is the news station wants to make a documentary on the frozen animal, and so it's more important now the animal rather than their experiments. And the local natives, I'm not sure what, I guess, I know the proper term isn't Eskimo anymore, but
Inuit? Or?
Yeah, maybe, exactly. So Native Americans, whatever they are. I'm sorry for the term, any apologies. And they actually, I'm trying to be politically correct.
Okay.
They say that this may be a bad thing to even do anything with this animal because it may possibly have something to do with their mythology, and it may be not just a dinosaur or a mammal from the mammoth days, but something else. And
Great.
so, so it's actually a lot of science in it, this book, but it is a horror novel, yet it was more, I guess, the marketing, since horror, as we know, being horror writers isn't as popular as it used to be. They try to market a lot of their books, Lincoln Child and Douglas Preston books, as thrillers or techno thrillers. And so even though it is a horror book, it's not as well known in the horror community because of how they marketed it.
You're going to read a little bit for us?
Yes,
Great.
absolutely. I just got a couple pages here. Here we go. This is the scene where they discover the animal or the thing in the ice. The roof wasn't especially low, at least 10 feet, yet Marshall ducked instinctively as he followed Chen inside. The cave bored straight into the mountain, descending at a gentle grade. They proceeded cautiously, flashlight beams playing over the lava walls. It was even colder in here than out in the ice field, and Marshall snugged the hood of his parka tightly around his face. "Hold up," he said. The beam of his flashlight had caught a hairline fracture in the braids of lava. He let his light travel along its length, then pressed it at it gingerly with one hand. "Looks solid," he said. "Then let's proceed," Sully replied. "Carefully." "It's amazing. This tunnel hasn't collapsed under the weight of the glacier," said Chen. They moved deeper into the cave, treading cautiously. When they spoke, it was in low tones, almost whispers. "There's a coating of ice beneath the snow here," Sully said after a minute. "Spans the entire floor, remarkably even." "And it's getting deeper the farther we go," replied Marshall. "At some point, this branch pipe must have been filled with water." "Well, it must have frozen with remarkable speed," Sully said, but at that moment, the climatologist's feet slid out from under him, and he fell heavily on the ice with a whinny of astonishment. Marshall cringed hard in mouth, waiting for the ceiling to come crashing down around them. But when nothing happened, he saw Sully was uninjured. His alarm turned to bemusement. "You got that on film, right, Hank?" The graduate student grinned through his sudden pallor. "Sure did." Sully rose laboriously to his feet, frowning and wiping snow from his knees. He had a cat's ingrained displeasure of losing dignity. "This is a serious moment, Evan. Please remember that." They continued even more slowly now. It was intensely quiet, the only sound the crunch of their feet on the dusting of snow. The ancient lava walls to either side were dark. Sully led the way gingerly, brushing the snow away with his boots, passing the flashlight beam back and forth over the path ahead. Chen peered into the gloom ahead. "Looks like the cave opens up ahead." "That's good," Sully replied, "because the ice sheet's getting deeper and—" Suddenly he fell again, but this was no clumsy repetition. Marshall immediately grasped that this time the scientist had fallen out of sheer surprise. Sully was frantically wiping away the snow underfoot and probing his light into the ice beneath. Chen dropped to his knees beside him, the camera temporarily forgotten. Marshall came quickly forward, peering down into the ice. With a chill unrelated to the cave's air, Marshall saw what Sully had found. There, buried beneath the ice floor, two fist-sized eyes, yellow with black oval pupils, were staring implacably back up at him.
Ooh.
So you really enjoyed that, huh? Good.
So this is that was basically the beginning, and then from there the news crew comes in, and then the ending is
Don't
is
spoil it for
fantastic.
us.
What
Yeah,
year
so
was
no.
that published?
2009, as a matter of fact. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's one of if you like techno thrillers, or if you like horror, or even just thrillers in general, and then at the end is a really good action piece.
I read something, I think it was by him, Tyrannosaurus Rex, I think was the name of it.
And
that was pretty good also.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
actually,
it.
I think that one was by his Douglas Preston. So
Was it by Preston?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
So I
his
take it
actually,
back.
his other book, Deep Storm, which is
That I haven't read.
Yeah, that one was even better than this one, to be honest. So.
Well, you got something for us too, huh?
I do. I picked Nosferatu by Joe Hill. Kind of, to me, the epitome of Christmas reads,
book?
over the last couple years. I was terrified when I read it. I wasn't sure how I was going to like it compared to, Stephen King's books, and it's you can't compare. They're two totally different writers, and I really loved it. I had heard mixed reviews, mostly positive, and I loved it. But it was really scary, and it was funny, and it was shocking. It dealt with a lot of themes. He creates this inscape, this Christmas land, and it was really good.
What's the plot about?
So I'll read you this
Okay.
this plot from let's see. I think the New York Times has a great
Synopsis?
has a great synopsis. Yeah, it's just easier than me coming up with one. Nosferatu, as in Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau's classic vampire movie, loves playing with words. The book's villain is a wizened ghoul who tries to lure children to a place where it is always Christmas, with fun features like a sleigh house, and you don't have to be Cassandra to know there's something nasty about that. And Nosferatu is not really a vampire story anyway. Mr. Hill's imagination is much more far-ranging than that. Which is scarier, blood-sucking vampires or the unexpected sound of treacly Christmas music suddenly playing in the summer? Mr. Hill gets maximum chills by invoking tunes like A Holly Jolly Christmas. He also names the book's ugliest character Bing. But the main menace is Charlie Manx, who is said, now this is unkind, to be so old that he looks like Keith Richards, and whose name evokes Charles Manson. Since a silver hammer stolen from a morgue is used to inflict damage on Manx's prey, the Beatles' Maxwell's silver hammer also comes merrily to mind, and the phrase search engine has many intersecting meanings throughout the book. Bing is a search engine's name. Manx uses his captive kitties to search and taunt, and Vic writes children's books in a search engine series that, in its measly review in the New York Times, is described as a hybrid of M.C. Escher and Where's Waldo. Vic uses her Triumph engine to search for and retrieve lost things. It's really, it has some things in it that sort of remind you of a Stephen King story. It has a killer car. It reminded me of King's kill your darlings advice. But I really found myself completely immersed in it.
You were sucked in.
I was totally sucked in, and I was terrified. And it's funny because in an interview, Joe Hill said that he finds nothing erotic or romantic about vampires, and you can see that here. He just flips the whole idea of a romantic, sexy vampire. He just flips that. And
Which is what the original, Nosferatu
right,
was when
right.
you look at the movie.
Yeah, and he turns that over, and it's pretty terrifying.
You got something to read for us?
I do.
Great.
And he also says that he hates Christmas. And he does. Joe Hill said he hated Christmas and that he had to listen to a lot of Christmas songs while he was writing this, and it drove him crazy. And that also comes through in here because this couldn't be any scarier. So if you haven't read it yet, and you like to be scared, this is the one. The St. Nicholas Parkway. North of Columbus, Wayne closed his eye for a moment, and when he opened them, the Christmas moon was sleeping in the night above, and either side on the highway was crowded with snowmen who turned their heads to watch the wraith pass. The mountains rose before them, a monstrous wall of black stone at the edge of the world. The peaks were so high it looked as if the moon itself might get snagged among them. In a fold a little below the highest part of the highest mountain was a basket of lights. It shone in the darkness, visible from hundreds of miles away, a great glowing ornament. a great glowing Christmas ornament. The sight of it was so exciting that Wayne could hardly remain in his seat. It was a cup of fire, a scoop of hot coals. It throbbed, and Wayne throbbed with it. Mr. Manx had one hand loose on the wheel. The road was so straight it could have been drawn with a ruler. The radio was on, and a boys' choir sang, "O come all ye faithful." In Wayne's heart was an answer to their sacred invitation. We are on our way. We are coming as fast as we can. Save a little Christmas for us. The snowmen stood in bunches, in families, and the breeze generated by the car snatched at their striped scarves. Snowmen fathers and snowgirl mothers with their snow children and snow puppies. Top hats were in abundance, as were corncob pipes and carrot noses. They waved the crooked sticks of their arms, saluting Mr. Manx, Wayne, and the Nosferatu as they went by. The black coals of their eyes gleamed, darker than the night, brighter than the stars. One snow dog had a bone in his mouth. One snow daddy had a mistletoe over his own head, while a snow mommy was frozen in the act of kissing his round white cheek. One snow child stood between decapitated parents, holding a hatchet. Wayne laughed and clapped. The living snowmen were the most delightful thing he had ever seen. What foolishness they got up to. "What do you want to do first when we get there?" Mr. Manx asked from the gloom of the front seat. "When we get to Christmas land." The possibilities were so exciting it was hard to put them in order. "I'm going in the rock candy cave to see the abominable snowman." "No, I'm going to ride in Santa's sleigh and save him from the cloud pirates." "There is a plan," Manx said. "Rides first, games after." "What games?" "The kids have a game called Scissors for the Drifter, which is the best time you've ever had. And then there is the Stick the Blind. Son, you have not had fun until you have played Stick the Blind with someone really spry. Look, over on the right, there is a snow lion biting the head off a snow sheep." Wayne turned his whole body to look out the right-hand window, but when he did, his grandmother was in his way. She was just as he had seen her last. She was brighter than anything in the back seat, as bright as snow in the moonlight. Her eyes were hidden behind silver half-dollars that flashed and gleamed. She had sent him half-dollars for his birthdays, but had never come herself. Said she didn't like to fly.
That does sound good. Yeah.
It's,
You're getting shivers reading it, huh?
yeah, well, I'm thinking of a couple of scenes, but he didn't hold back, and Bing, that the New York Times talked about the character was just
Spot on.
ferocious, and Mr. Manx was not someone you want to meet.
I'll definitely put that on my list. We're going to take a real short break for station identification, and we'll be back in a minute. Welcome back. I guess it's my turn. I'm going to read from somebody you've heard me speak about an awful lot and who's been on the show, and that's Christopher Golden. And I'm going to read from his book Snowblind, which you also talked about quite a bit. Snowblind was one of my favorite books, not only of last year, but maybe of the last 5 years. It's an exciting book. It's a great book. Scary. You talk about Stephen King. To me, Snowblind is like an old Stephen King novel. It's the multi-characters. The geography is large. It's just a lot of fun. That was on cue, wasn't it?
A large ensemble cast, then, basically.
Oh yeah, quite a few people. The scope of the story is large. And it's scary, scary as hell.
I haven't read it yet. I definitely
Yeah,
want
I
to pick that
wanna
one
read
up.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's good. Just to give you a little bit of background on Snowblind, at the start of Snowblind, we're introduced to the residents of Coventry, New Hampshire. There's a snowstorm coming to Coventry, and it's a monster snowstorm, the likes of which the town has never seen. There are supernatural creatures that inhabit that storm, terrible icy figures who steal the town's children, wives, and husbands. The missing townspeople just vanish without a trace. All that's left of them is a memory by their loved ones. It's 12 years later now, and another monster snowstorm is coming to hit Coventry. Before it hits, those that had vanished 12 years earlier are returning. And those terrible ice figures that we talked about earlier, they not only want those that escape back, and they want a whole lot more. In Snowblind, from what I'm going to read for you, set the scene up. There's a cop who's out in a snowstorm looking for two teenage boys whose mother called the police because they were missing.
And so they're brothers?
Geez, I can't remember if they're brothers. They might be.
Is it at all like Storm of the Century?
That's one of the few Stephen Kings I haven't read.
Oh.
So I can't tell you. Maybe you could tell me after you hear the reading. A voice came to him on the wind, and he looked up, peering through the snow at nothing. The cold cut deeply despite his jacket and hat and gloves, but he forged ahead, wondering if the raging wind and whipping snow had played a trick on him, if the sound he'd heard had come from some other direction. Half a dozen steps more, and he found his answer, a dark silhouette staggering toward him, straight ahead. "Hey!" Officer Keenan shouted. "This way!" Stupid. The guy was already headed this way, but maybe he needed to know he wasn't alone. He heard a voice again, though it sounded different this time, a soft, cuffing whisper. Yet it confused him because it came not from ahead, but behind and to his left. The wind drove harder, thickening the white curtain in front of him and obscuring his view of the figure in the snow. The storm's playing tricks on me, Keenan thought. But then the whisper came again, so close it seemed to be right at his ear. And he felt something snag on his jacket. He turned with a shout, reaching for his gun. Stupid, because he had his gloves on. He stared into the storm, not breathing, heart booming inside his chest, waiting for a lull in the gale. When it came and the snow fell straight down for once, instead of whipping sideways, he saw nothing. No one was there, and yet that whisper lingered in his mind so vividly that his heart still thundered and he took short, nervous breaths. His thoughts rushed back to earlier in his shift and whatever had made a dent in his car. "Hello?" a voice called. Spinning around, he saw that the silhouetted figure had come nearer. Keenan saw a bulky green jacket with a hood, but the face was in darkness until he swung his flashlight up. The blizzard played havoc with the beam, but he could make out the man's basic features and the frantic terror in his eyes. "Sir, I'm a police officer. Are you hurt?" Keenan flashed the light in his eyes again, waved it back and forth, and wondered if the guy was in shock. "Are you Mr. Wexler?" he asked. The guy blinked. He looked around as though he'd lost something, and then fixed his gaze on Officer Keenan. "I'm okay. It's the boys. You gotta help the boys," Wexler said, his voice raising from numbed to frantic in the space of a handful of words. Wexler grabbed Keenan by the wrist, but the officer yanked his arm away. "Please, sir, just show me where they are." The man nodded his head and just kept nodding at it as he turned back the way he came. So that's just a little
Sounds
taste of
good, yeah.
the storm, and you can feel the cold and the shivering, and
And it
just
takes place in New Hampshire.
it takes place in New Hampshire, yeah. And that's again Snowblind by Christopher Golden.
I thought you said Officer Keene at first, and I laughed because
That's
I
what
thought maybe.
too, yeah.
Oh,
you
Brian
named-
Keene?
Yeah.
Oh, no, Keenan. There's another real short, very short book I'm going to read from. And it's called White by Tim Levin. It's a novella. And I'm really,
I've heard a lot of good things about that.
it's a great novella. It's a great book. And I'm only going to read you the first, really 2 paragraphs. The first paragraph is 1 word, but
And he's an English author, isn't he?
he is an English author, yeah. And White is about a small group of people in England, some of them from the Department of the Environment, who were sent to a cabin on the Atlantic Drift to monitor radiation levels from reactors melting down in Brazil. These people are in the middle of nowhere when they discover on television that a nuclear apocalypse is taking place. They are stranded in the cabin due to storms and an ungodly amount of snow. But there's something out there in the snow with them. Dead people appear, and there are creatures outside who blend in with the snow. Members of their group start dying, and their deaths are horrible. But who is responsible for these deaths? Members of the group, or the white beasts that can only be seen out of the corners of their eyes? Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. I'm going to read, like I said, just a quick 2 paragraphs. And the first line is a killer. It's on the first chapter. This is how the book starts. We found the first body 2 days before Christmas. Charlie had been out gathering sticks to dry for tinder. She had worked her way through the wild garden and toward the cliffs, scooping snow from beneath and around bushes and bagging whatever dead twigs she found there. There were no signs, she said. No disturbances in the virgin surface of the snow. No tracks, no warning. Nothing to prepare her for the scene of bloody devastation she stumbled across. That gives you a good idea of what's coming. It's a very violent book, very bloody book, and really good.
And I love the thought of that against the white, you know, like the contrast of
the blood and the
against-
contrast,
yeah.
oh, it's fantastic. It really is good. And it-
Speaking of Tim Levin, I have some copies of The Library of the Dead, which
Oh, yeah,
has Night
yeah.
Soliloquy, the first story I ever read from on the show. Do you have a copy of that, the written backwards anthology? You do? Do you have? Oh, you don't have a copy?
I don't think, I might, but I don't think
He's
so.
in that, and Gene O'Neill, and
Oh, yes, yeah, I know of the book.
Well,
Yeah.
I could-
If I have it, I just haven't gotten to it yet.
no, I have a copy
Yeah,
for you if
okay.
you'd like it.
Yeah, I bought it at Anthocom this past year. So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and I think you signed it for me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, the business part of the show is done. Now we're going to get to the fun.
Okay.
Now, I know the last time we did this, some of the people at home played along, and they let me know how
Oh, really?
disappointed they were in my responses, and how Phil happened to get every single one of them right, and I
yeah.
happened to get every single one of them wrong.
Oh, well.
So let's hope that we can change that
And
this
I
week.
gave you multiple choice as well.
You did, yeah. So all my questions are going to be about some book you've never heard about that was written in the 1700s and written in Greek.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
So there's no
Well,
chance you're
probably
going to.
still.
You probably still will. We're each going to read the other guy a question, the other people a question, and see if they know the answers. I'll start, and then you can go with the question, and then you, Phil. Is that all right?
Sure, yeah.
Fine.
Sounds
Okay.
Works for me, yeah.
The questions I'm going to ask are taken from Robert Dunbar's excellent nonfiction book called Vortex, where he examines the deep currents of tradition in classic and modern horror literature. It's published by Uninvited Books, and it's a fun read if you ever wanted to know some of the origins of folklores or some of the tropes or monsters that we're so used to reading about. Robert Dunbar talks about them in Vortex. So what I'm going to do is read a paragraph about someone or something, and you have to guess who or what it is I'm talking about. Okay?
All right. I won't blurt it out if I know it. We'll discuss.
Wait,
You can
so
discuss.
movie?
No, a person or a thing.
Oh, person or a thing.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yep.
Few ancient seas existed in which sirens did not swim. This most perpetual of legends surfaced in India, Norse, and Syrian mythology. And these creatures are mentioned by both Aristotle and Ovid. Swirling through a multiple of medieval bestiaries, they are as vulnerable as they are ubiquitous. And faith in these creatures still ripple through folklore of myriad cultures. One consistent factor anchors these accounts. The desires such creatures provoke lead to destruction.
Mermaids.
Well, I know there's.
So,
And it's related to the water.
because you already said sirens.
That's what I know.
Yeah.
That's right, yes, mermaids. Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
That was
so
an
you- so
easy
you
one.
got
That's
it.
the
Yeah,
easiest one.
Good,
Yep.
good.
Yay, what do I win?
You win a chance to ask a question.
Really?
Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Okay. In the final scene of Let the Right One In, when the two main characters are communicating with Morse code, they tap a word. What is it? And what does it mean?
This is unfortunate because I read the book, and I should know this. And it has it was in the trunk. It was like yeah. So, did you read the book, Tony?
No, but I saw the movie.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Was it in the
So
movie
if
too?
you saw the movie, and you know what the word is, then you might know what it means in Swedish.
In Swedish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't know the answer. I'm very disappointed with
Me
myself.
too. Me too.
Yeah.
Bluffsheen?
No.
Okay. No.
What does that mean?
That means taking your clothes off very slowly and doing a dance around the table. That they didn't do that, huh?
No. No. Sorry, neither of you win.
What's the answer?
The answer is actually the word is puss, which
I was
means
close.
small kiss in
Small
Swedish.
kiss. Okay.
Small kiss.
Paul McNamee's going to get every one of these answers right. I can just know it. Go ahead.
Oh,
It's your
oh,
turn.
pleasure. Okay, all right.
I want a
Hopefully-
double margarita for that one.
Okay. I was glad that when you read off all your
Snow books?
snow books, you didn't mention this one because
Okay.
this is probably the best of them all.
Oh.
It's a story called "Who Goes There."
Yeah.
It was written in 1938,
Yep.
and it
Campbell.
is basically the basis for the movie The Thing from Another World, as well as
Yep.
The Thing, which was
Oh,
now.
Great movie.
I think you already know the answer because I think you kind of let it out. But I was
Oh.
going to say, what science fiction author wrote this? And I have four names: L. Ron Hubbard, John W. Campbell, Robert A. Heinlein, or Arthur C. Clarke.
Miss Campbell.
Yeah.
Did you know that too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
Another easy.
that was an
Okay,
easy
I
one.
got
That
one
was
in
an
2
easy
shows.
one.
I got one.
The
Yeah.
remake of the thing was extraordinary because they used
With Kurt
all
Russell?
like
Yeah.
well, the remake because they used all Danish and Norwegian and Swedish actors, which I love.
Oh, you have the prequel one,
Yeah.
right? That just
Yeah.
came out. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, the prequel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, the last
Yeah.
one that just came
Yeah.
out? Oh, I didn't.
That
Yeah.
was 2011. I think.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Oh,
I've
sounds,
got another one.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. Very
You
good.
ready? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. You should get this one. Throughout 1967, at least 100 citizens in this Point Pleasant area of West Virginia.
Mothman.
Go ahead.
Very good. Okay.
These are too easy. I got to start making them
Yeah,
harder.
well, my next questions are so easy. It's ridiculous.
All right,
so.
let's see.
She's going to come with some obscure movie reference again. What color was the nail polish on the?
Okay. So you asked about The Shining.
Mhm.
I mean, you you didn't ask about it. You
mentioned it.
Yeah.
So I'll do a question from The Shining, from the movie. How long did it take? Well, because we're all doing different, things. You're doing.
Oh yeah,
your
that's fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I decided movies. About how long did it take to get the iconic shot where the blood pours out of the elevator in The Shining? How long did it take for them to get that shot?
To film it or to show on the screen? Because on the screen it's
Yeah,
what,
it's-
15, 20 seconds?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, how long did it take to film?
To film
I
it?
should ask, yeah.
Well, that's a pretty obscure question.
Yeah, because the question is asked strangely.
I'd have to guess 2 days.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds reasonable. Yeah. 2 days. Yeah.
It was 3 days.
3 days?
3 days.
But see, it
Your
says
cost.
it took a year to get the iconic shot in where blood pours out of the elevator. Right. Oh, it took a year to get it right. but then only 3 days to film.
To film it. Oh, so
Wow,
it took a year to set it up.
to get
yeah.
it right.
That's Stanley Kubrick. He really
Wow.
pays attention
Imagine.
to detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phil, you're next.
Okay, yeah, these are easy ones now. I thought that was the hardest one that I said earlier, but okay. We're all familiar with Stephen King, and I have 4 titles that he wrote. One of them does not take place in the snow. Which one is it? And the 4 titles I have here are The Shining, Misery, Dreamcatcher, and Desperation.
Desperation.
Yeah, Desperation.
Yeah,
That's the desert.
Yeah, that's the desert.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is pretty easy.
It was an easy question. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Do I go to my super?
Stump us.
Do I go to a super hard one?
Yeah, stump us.
This is
Now,
really
don't
hard.
shout this one out.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
hard.
I couldn't help it. I heard Point Pleasant and I went,
You already knew. I knew that was easy, but I thought I'd set you
or
up for
Mount
this one.
Pleasant. Point Pleasant? Yeah.
This woman could be considered one of the first scream queens. As befits her pioneer status, key events in her life have become practically mythologized. Her debut at a costume ball dressed up as a Charles Adam character, who we know as Morticia. Her relationship with actor James Dean. Her wordless performance in Plan 9 from Outer Space. And her eventual abduction, kidnapping by a crazed fan.
You may know it, right?
You know.
She is
I
best
know who she
remembered
is. I don't know
for
if I
suing
can-
Elvira.
Yeah. Is it just Vampire or something? No, I don't know the name of the woman, but I know
Yeah,
who she
I
is.
knew this was a tough one.
Yeah, I know who she is.
I do too, and I didn't know her name until I came across it. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right, which I doubt. Mela Nurmi. Doesn't ring bells, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. But what was her stage name she used for that character? I forget. Because there's
On Plan 9?
Plan 9.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I don't remember. I just
no, but she used to do a hosting show similar to Elvira.
Well, that's
prior.
right. Oh, yes, yeah,
and
that's why she
went
sued.
by a name too, and I
Like
forget that name.
Vampirella?
Yeah, something like that.
No,
Yeah.
that wasn't.
Yeah, that was a comic book hero, but it was
Yeah.
something.
I'm
similar.
not sure.
All right, very well.
Somebody will let us know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll be doing Google right after
There
this
you go.
episode, yeah.
All right, one more from you.
All right, so speaking of Stephen King, there was a someone did a cameo in Creepshow that you know, that we all know, in Creepshow.
In the Lonesome Death of Virgil.
Well, I know
Virgil.
Stephen King does
Right.
cameos
Can't
in a lot
remember
of
the
his
name.
films, but
Yeah.
But it
It's
wasn't
not
him.
yeah, I haven't seen the movie for like.
Oh, I haven't either.
For years.
That we all know,
Honest.
meaning a famous horror star, or
Yeah, I'm not gonna get this because I haven't seen the movie. for so
yeah,
long.
it's been a while for me too.
There's a friend of mine that would know it in a
I wa-
heartbeat because it's like his favorite film. But
Yeah, maybe I'm confusing it with a different one, but who's the woman that was in the fog with
Adrian
Oh,
Barbeau.
my
Adrian Barbeau?
God.
Yeah.
No.
No?
No, that's not who I mean.
I like how Tony has to explain.
Oh, I'm sorry.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well,
Adrian
what's the-
Barbeau,
yeah.
we don't know.
Joe Hill, his
as
son.
a-
Yeah.
as a
He was,
baby.
yeah, he was
We shoulda
little.
guessed that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
he's probably like 7 or
He
something.
was
like that.
little, yeah.
Should have guessed that.
He's a little
So
boy.
That's too funny.
Yep.
Yeah. And George Romero directed that film.
Yes, yes.
So.
Is it you?
Oh, yes, my last question. And Tony, you already ruined this one for me when you named off some stuff. But I'll go with it anyway. And it's an easy one anyway. So, H.P. Lovecraft wrote a story that takes place in Antarctica. And I have a list of 4 tales. And
Is madness in one of them?
the first is The Whisper in Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
The second is Beyond the Wall of Sleep. The third is At the Mountains of Madness. And the fourth is The Case of Charles Dexter Ward.
At the mountain of madness.
Yeah.
Mouth of
yeah,
Madness,
yeah.
yep.
That was one of the ones you said. It
Yeah.
was like, I did terrible questions this time. I'm sorry.
No, you
Well, that's
did.
good. Did we get them all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was
Hey,
it.
this
Yeah.
time it's a little different, huh?
yeah.
How's it feel? How's it feel?
Yeah, I got destroyed this time. Yeah.
Well, you have other things on your mind.
Yeah. This past 12 days have been pretty busy.
Yeah. That's okay.
Well, I'm going to finish up just real quickly with a couple of new releases out there that you might want to check out, either from your favorite ebook store or your local physical bookstore. Dean Koontz has got a new one out called Ashley Bell.
That looks interesting. I read the jacket for that.
Oh, does it look good?
Yeah, it does.
Stephen King's got The Bizarre Bad Dreams. And Justin Cronin's got a new one out called The City of Mirrors, which is book 3 in his Passion series. I didn't know there was a book 2. I loved the first one. The first one was great.
I read the first. I have not read the second one, but I knew it was out. I just haven't read it.
Yeah, I got to look that up.
Yeah.
And Mercedes M. Yardley, Nameless, that's a reissue on Crystal Lake. That's really doing very, very well. It rose up the charts quite quickly. And I've read that. That's good. W.D. Gigliani Bill has got his new one out called Wolf's Blind. And Mark Allen Gunnels, he's got Flower in a Dumpster, but he's also got another new one out that just came out today, I think.
Oh, that's right.
It's a zombie book, but I can't remember the name of it.
Right.
But,
I saw him put something on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
But
Okay.
I don't remember what it is, yeah.
There's an anthology out edited by Mitzi Zerto. I probably screwed that name up too, and that's called Love and Lust Zombies. Lisa Von Biela has got Broken Chain. She's quite an author. Gene O'Neill's come out with the Algernon Effect with White Noise Press, and they've done a great job. White Noise is Keith Minion's imprint. Quality throughout. It arrived at my house. I haven't opened it yet, but I can't wait to. Always have to open up and read those White Noise Press chapbooks. And Sandy DeLuca's got a new combination book of art and fiction called Fragments. You might want to take a moment or two and look those up.
And I'll plug Among the Ruins by Stephen Williams. It's his debut novel.
Great.
And published, through Villipede. And he's a great
Good, huh?
writer.
Great.
He's a great writer. He's a great guy, and it's a fantastic debut novel.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, well, anything else in closing remarks?
No, congratulations to
Yeah.
you both.
Yes, and you
And
too.
I'm so glad to be back.
We're glad to have you back.
Guys.
Yeah.
And
Miss you guys.
next year it'll be next year when
Oh
we
my
appear
God!
again.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right, yeah.
See you guys next year.
We should wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday you do happen to.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to enjoy.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in a month from now, like Phil said, in January.
Yep.
And after that, we're going to be making a special remote trip, but we'll talk to you about that next meeting.
See you next year.
So long, everybody. Thank you.